The Stellar Physics Institute hung in space like a crystalline snowflake, its transparent walls reflecting the light of 3 nearby suns. Inside its most secure laboratory, 12 of the galaxy's most renowned scientists huddled around a holographic display, their various appendages trembling with concern. The quantum anomaly they'd been studying had grown another 12% in the last solar cycle. Senior researcher HFY pressed her primary sensory nodes against the display, all 3 of her eyes blinking in rapid succession. The calculations are undeniable. At this rate of expansion, the anomaly will threaten populated systems within 2 standard years. The assembled scientists, representing species from 100 different worlds, chittered and hummed in distress. They had been studying this phenomenon for over 3 decades and still couldn't explain why a region of space, roughly the size of Earth's solar system, had begun to exhibit impossible quantum properties. Perhaps, suggested Dr. Zypol, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated extreme anxiety, we should consider the previously rejected proposal. A wave of negative bioluminescence swept through the gathered researchers. They all knew what he meant. The humans. 3 solar cycles ago, the Galactic Science Council had begun accepting students from Earth into its prestigious institutions. The decision had been controversial. Humans came from what the galaxy classified as a death world, a planet so inherently hostile that it should have been impossible for intelligent life to evolve there. Their bodies were riddled with redundant systems, their bones reinforced with calcium, their skin designed to heal from injuries that would kill most sentient species. Their minds, most disturbing of all, seemed to operate in ways that defied conventional logic. The human students have shown unusual aptitude in quantum mechanics, HFY admitted reluctantly. Their inability to accept fundamental universal constants as truly constant has led to some interesting theoretical work. Interesting, scoffed Professor Kurem, their gelatinous form rippling with derision. They suggested that quantum entanglement could be explained by treating spacetime as a cosmic game of telephone. It's absurd. And yet, Dr. Zypol pointed out, their models predicted quantum behavior with 3.8% greater accuracy than our standard equations. The debate might have continued indefinitely if the anomaly hadn't chosen that moment to pulse. The holographic display flared with impossible colors, and every instrument in the laboratory began registering readings that should have been mathematically impossible. When the chaos subsided, HFY made the decision: summon the humans. The 3 human students arrived in a way that seemed calculated to offend every sensibility of proper scientific decorum. Maya Chen walked in reading a tablet while simultaneously juggling 3 quantum probability spheres. Alex Rodriguez came sliding in on hover boots he'd modify himself, and Sarah Nelson arrived last, calmly sipping a beverage that violated 6 different safety protocols. "Yo," Alex said, coming to a stop that left scorch marks on the immaculate floor. "We heard you've got a physics problem that needs solving." HFY felt her primary sensory nodes contract with stress. These were allegedly among the brightest minds Earth had to offer. But there was no choice now. The anomaly pulsed again, and this time the readings were even more disturbing. Maya stopped juggling, her eyes fixed on the holographic display with an intensity that made several of the more sensitive scientists take a step back. "Oh," she said, a grin spreading across her face. "Now that's interesting." She walked straight through the hologram, ignoring the gasps of horror from the assembled researchers, and began manipulating the display with practiced gestures. "Look at these patterns. They're not random at all." Sarah set down her drink and joined her classmate. "You're right. It's almost like a heartbeat," Alex finished, his hover boots humming as he zipped around the display. "The anomaly isn't expanding chaotically. It's breathing." The alien scientists stared at them in confusion. HFY's translator must be malfunctioning. Breathing. That's impossible. Space cannot breathe. "Why not?" Maya asked, still manipulating the display. On Earth, we've got these things called tardigrades, microscopic animals that can survive in the vacuum of space. They do it by entering a state called cryptobiosis, basically shutting down until conditions improve. Are you suggesting, Professor Kurem wobbled incredulously, that this quantum anomaly is some form of life? Not exactly, Sarah said, pulling up a new set of equations. But what if it's operating on similar principles? What if this region of space has entered a kind of cryptobiotic state? Alex nodded enthusiastically, like when you put your computer in sleep mode to save power. The anomaly readings spike periodically, just like a computer checking if it's safe to wake up. The alien scientists watched in a mixture of horror and fascination as the three humans began working with a speed and intuitive understanding that defied conventional scientific method. They referenced everything from Earth video games to ancient philosophy to something called cat videos as they built their theoretical framework. And somehow, impossibly, their wild theories began to make sense. Vexine felt her worldview shifting as she watched these Deathworlders at work. Perhaps she realized, evolution on a planet that constantly tried to kill you produced more than just physical resilience. Perhaps it created minds capable of seeing possibilities that more conventional evolution would never consider. The anomaly pulsed again, and this time, the human smiled as if greeting an old friend. "Well," Maya said, cracking her knuckles in a way that made several scientists flinch, "looks like we got a sleeping giant to wake up. Who's ready to make some history?" The Stellar Physics Institute's main laboratory had transformed over the past 12 hours. Where once pristine holographic displays and quantum measurement devices had stood in perfect order, now chaos reigned. The humans had brought in their own equipment, a bizarre mixture of cutting-edge Earth technology and what looked like scavenged parts from the Institute's recycling center. Maya Chen sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by scattered datapads displaying the anomaly's readings from different angles. She'd insisted on physical displays rather than neural projections, claiming she needed to feel the data under her fingers. Around her, a small crowd of junior alien researchers watched in fascination as she manipulated the information with gestures that seemed more like conducting music than doing science. "See this pattern here?" She pointed to a recurring spike in the quantum fluctuations. "It reminds me of something I saw back on Earth during my internship at CERN. When particles get excited enough, they start to dance." Professor Kurem's gelatinous form quivered with indignation. "Particles do not dance. They follow precisely calculated quantum mechanical principles." "That's where you're wrong," Alex Rodriguez called from across the room, where he was modifying what appeared to be a standard quantum resonance scanner with parts from his personal gaming console. "Everything dances. You just have to know how to hear the music." Sarah Nelson looked up from her workstation, where she'd been running simulations using an algorithm she'd based on Earth weather patterns. "He's right. On Earth, we learned pretty quickly that trying to force natural phenomena to follow our preconceptions was a losing battle. Nature doesn't care about our rules." Vexine watched these exchanges with growing fascination. In her 300 years of scientific research, she'd never encountered such an unorthodox approach to physics. The humans seemed to treat the universe not as a set of immutable laws to be reverently studied, but as a puzzle to be solved, or perhaps, more accurately, as a dance partner to be understood. "Explain to me," she requested, addressing all three humans, how growing up on Earth led to this unique perspective. The humans exchanged glances, and Sarah took the lead. "Earth isn't just a death world because it's physically dangerous. It's a death world because it's constantly changing. Our planet's weather can transform from calm to lethal in minutes. Our oceans can swallow cities. Our ground can split open without warning. To survive," Maya continued, "we had to learn to think sideways. When you can't overpower something, you have to understand it. Dance with it. Work with it rather than against it." Alex nodded, still tinkering with his modified scanner. "That's why your traditional approaches to this anomaly haven't worked. You're trying to force it to make sense according to your rules. But what if it's playing by its own rules? A sudden surge in the anomaly's energy readings interrupted their discussion. The holographic display erupted with cascading patterns of light, causing several alien scientists to recoil in alarm. But the humans leaned forward, their eyes bright with recognition. "There!" Maya exclaimed, jumping to her feet. "Did you see that? The pattern isn't random at all. It's responding to our scans." Sarah was already typing furiously at her workstation. "It's like an immune response. Every time we probe it with conventional quantum measurements, it reacts defensively. But look at the harmonics when we use Alex's modified scanner." The display showed a markedly different pattern, smoother, almost rhythmic. Vaiksian's sensory nodes tingled with an unfamiliar sensation she eventually recognized as excitement. "The anomaly," Alex said, grinning broadly, "is trying to communicate. We've just been speaking the wrong language." Professor Kurem's form rippled skeptically. "That's impossible. Quantum phenomena don't communicate." "Tell that to entangled particles," Maya countered. "On Earth, we learned that quantum mechanics breaks pretty much every rule we thought we understood about reality. Why should this be any different?" Sarah pulled up a new set of calculations. "Look at these readings from the modified scanner. The anomaly isn't just reacting to our probes. It's mimicking them, like a mirror, or like it's learning." Vaiksian finished, her scientific training warring with what her sensory nodes were telling her. "But that would mean it's alive," all three humans said simultaneously. The laboratory erupted into chaos as the alien scientists began debating the implications. But Vaiksian noticed that the humans had already moved on to the next phase, working with the kind of focused intensity she'd only seen in creatures evolved to survive crisis situations. Maya had begun reconfiguring the main quantum already, her hands moving with practiced precision. "If it's alive, we need to stop treating it like a problem to be solved and start treating it like a patient to be healed." "Better yet," Alex added, making final adjustments to his scanner, "like a student to be taught. Everything we've seen suggests it's trying to understand us as much as we're trying to understand it." Sarah looked up from her simulations, her expression serious. "But we need to move fast. These new readings suggest the anomaly is approaching a critical phase. If we're right about what it is, we have maybe 48 hours before it either wakes up or dies trying." Vaiksian felt her worldview shifting yet again. Perhaps this was why humans had survived their death world, not just their physical resilience, but their ability to see life and possibility in the most unlikely places. And now, facing a phenomenon that defied conventional physics, that unique perspective might be exactly what the galaxy needed. The anomaly pulsed again, and this time, Vaiksian could almost imagine she heard it calling for help. The Stellar Physics Institute's Emergency Council chamber had never hosted a presentation quite like this one. Maya Chen stood before the assembled galactic science leaders, her holographic demonstration showing what appeared to be a cross between a quantum physics equation and a musical score. "The anomaly isn't just alive," she explained, her voice steady despite the skeptical murmurs from the audience. "It's trying to solve itself. Every pulse we've recorded is an attempt at self-correction, like a computer running a diagnostic scan." Senior Counselor ZX427, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns of doubt, interrupted. "You expect us to believe that a quantum anomaly has developed consciousness." "Not consciousness exactly." Sarah Nelson stepped forward, bringing up a new set of readings. "Think of it more like a quantum computer that's gotten stuck in a boot loop. It's trying to restart, but it can't quite remember its original configuration." Alex Rodriguez, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly activated a small device he'd been holding. The holographic display erupted with a cascade of data that made several council members recoil. "These are the anomaly's baseline readings from 30 years ago, when it was first discovered," he said. "And these," he overlaid a new pattern, "are from yesterday. See the similarity? It's not expanding randomly. It's trying to restore itself to its original state." Vaiksian, who had sponsored their presentation to the council, felt her sensory nodes tingling with anticipation. The humans' theory was radical, but their evidence was becoming harder to dismiss. "And what?" Counselor X427 asked, their tone dripping with skepticism. "Do you propose we do about it?" The three humans exchanged glances. Maya took a deep breath. "We need to synchronize with its quantum frequency and provide it with a template for restoration. Basically, we need to remind it what it's supposed to be." The council chamber erupted in protests. "Synchronize with an unstable quantum anomaly. Impossible." "Not impossible," Sarah countered, bringing up another display. "We've already done it on a small scale." Alex's modified scanner wasn't just taking readings, it was establishing a connection. The display showed a series of wave patterns gradually aligning. The council fell silent, studying the data with their various sensory organs. "The risk is unacceptable," Counselor X427 declared. "If your theory is wrong, attempting to interface with the anomaly could trigger a catastrophic collapse. And if we do nothing," Alex pointed out, "it'll collapse anyway. Our models give it less than 36 hours before it reaches critical instability." Maya stepped forward again. "We're not asking for permission to try this. We're asking for your help to do it right." The council chamber filled with the equivalent of shocked gasps from a dozen different species. Vaxian felt a surge of admiration for the human's boldness, even as she worried about the political consequences. "What exactly do you need?" she asked, before the council could reject the proposal outright. Sarah activated another hologram, this one showing a complex array of modified quantum resonators. "We need to build this. It's based on Earth's quantum computing architecture, but scaled up and modified to operate on cosmic frequencies. Those modifications violate at least 15 safety protocols," one of the junior counselors pointed out. "Safety protocols designed for stable space," Alex countered. "We're dealing with something that's already broken the rules. We need to break a few ourselves if we want to fix it." Maya's voice cut through the growing debate. "Every piece of equipment we're requesting is already available in this facility. We just need to use it differently. And we need your best quantum engineers to help us build it fast." The council descended into heated discussion, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of light, sound, and chemical signals. Vaxian watched the humans during this exchange, noting how they remained focused on their devices, making constant minor adjustments to their calculations. Finally, Counselor X427 raised all their appendages for silence. "This is unprecedented. You're asking us to risk not just expensive equipment, but potentially the stability of this entire sector of space, on a theory that violates our most basic understanding of quantum mechanics." "Yes," all three humans said simultaneously. "Because that's what humans do," Maya added. "We look at the impossible and find a way to make it work." "We evolved on a planet that should have killed us," Sarah continued. "We survived by learning to think beyond conventional limitations. And now," Alex finished, "we're asking you to trust that same instinct that kept us alive on Earth. Because sometimes the craziest solution is the only one that works." Vaxian felt the moment the council's resistance began to waver. Perhaps it was the human's conviction, or perhaps it was the latest readings from the anomaly, showing increasingly erratic patterns. "You have 12 hours, Counselor X427 finally declared. After that, we implement the containment protocols, regardless of your progress." The humans were already moving before the council finished speaking. Vaxian watched them go, their minds clearly racing ahead to the challenge before them. They showed no sign of celebration at their partial victory, only the focused intensity of predators on a hunt. As the council chamber emptied, she heard Alex mutter something that her translator had trouble processing. "Time to hack the universe." The anomaly pulsed again, stronger this time, as if responding to their determination. Vaxian wondered, not for the first time, if bringing humans into galactic science had been merely the beginning of a much larger change. Perhaps the galaxy needed their unique perspective more than anyone had realized. She followed the humans out, already calculating how to best assist their mad plan. After all, if you're going to break the laws of physics, you might as well do it properly. The main laboratory of the Stellar Physics Institute had been transformed into something that looked more like a mixture of an Earth concert hall and a quantum computing center. The humans' modified array of resonators formed a complex geometric pattern across the floor, ceiling, and walls, connected by shimmering quantum filaments that pulsed with an eerie blue light. Maya Chen stood at what could only be described as a conductor's podium, though instead of a baton, she held a modified quantum interface controller. Sarah Nelson monitored a bank of hastily assembled sensors, their screens displaying readings that seemed to shift between different dimensional states. Alex Rodriguez moved between the resonators, making final adjustments with the quick, precise movements of someone who knew they were racing against time. 20 minutes until the anomaly reaches critical instability, Sarah announced, her voice tight with tension. The latest readings showed the quantum distortion spreading faster than their initial projections had suggested. Vuxine observed from her position near the main control center, her sensory nodes detecting stress patterns from every species present. The gathered alien scientists watched with a mixture of horror and fascination as the humans prepared to attempt something that violated virtually every known law of quantum physics. "The resonators are as ready as they'll ever be," Alex reported, making one final adjustment. "If this works, they'll create a quantum harmony that matches the anomaly's original frequency pattern. If it doesn't," he shrugged, "well, at least we won't have long to regret it." Maya's fingers danced across her controller, bringing up a holographic representation of the quantum harmonics they discovered in the anomaly's pulse patterns. "Think of it like a lullaby," she explained to the bewildered alien scientists. "We're not trying to force it back to stability. We're trying to remind it of its natural state." 15 minutes to critical, Sarah called out. New alarms began blaring as the anomaly's energy readings spiked sharply. "The containment field is starting to buckle." Counselor X427 burst into the laboratory, their crystalline form vibrating with alarm. "The quantum distortions are spreading faster than predicted. They've already reached the outer research stations. We need to begin evacuation procedures immediately." "No time," Maya said, her eyes fixed on her displays. "If we evacuate now, we'll never get another chance at this. The anomaly will collapse, taking half this sector with it." She looked up at the counselor, her expression fierce. "Trust us, please." A violent pulse from the anomaly rocked the entire station. Equipment crashed to the floor as gravity briefly fluctuated. Several alien scientists lost control of their forms entirely, shifting through multiple states of matter before managing to stabilize. 10 minutes, Sarah announced, her hands flying over her controls. "The quantum harmonics are becoming more erratic. We're losing the pattern." "No, we're not," Alex said suddenly, staring at his readings with an intensity that made several nearby aliens step back. "Look at this. The chaos in the pattern. It's not random. It's fractal." Maya's eyes widened. "Of course. It's not just trying to remember its original state. It's trying to evolve into something new." Her fingers began moving faster across her controller, adjusting the quantum harmonics in real time. 7 minutes to critical, Sarah reported. "Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it now." Vuxine watched as Maya took a deep breath, centering herself at her podium. "Alex, Sarah, remember that quantum harmonics experiment we did in Professor Williams' class? The one that almost got us expelled?" Their eyes lit up with understanding. "The quantum resonance cascade?" Alex asked, already moving to adjust his equipment. "That was specifically listed as something we should never, ever try again." "Exactly," Maya grinned. "Sarah, reconfigure the containment field to amplify the resonance instead of dampening it." "Alex, set the resonators to match the fractal pattern. We're not going to fight the evolution. We're going to help it happen." "This is madness," Counselor X427 protested. You'll trigger a quantum cascade failure. 5 minutes to critical, Sarah announced, even as she made the requested adjustments. Containment field reconfigured. We're either about to make history or end up as a very interesting physics problem for the next generation to solve. Resonators aligned to fractal pattern, Alex reported. Ready when you are, Maestro. Maya's fingers hovered over her controller. The laboratory had fallen completely silent except for the whine of overworked equipment and the pulsing of the anomaly. Vaxian realized she was witnessing either the moment humans proved their worth to galactic science or the last moments of everyone present. 3 minutes to critical. Maya began to move her fingers across the controller, and the resonators responded with a harmony that seemed to exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously. The air itself appeared to vibrate with patterns that hurt to look at. 2 minutes. The anomaly's pulses began to synchronize with the resonator's output. Waves of quantum energy washed through the laboratory, causing reality itself to ripple like the surface of a disturbed pond. 1 minute to critical. Maya's movements became more complex, her expression one of absolute concentration, as she conducted an orchestra of quantum possibilities. The resonator's harmony grew stronger, weaving itself into the fabric of space-time. And then, just as the final countdown began, the anomaly changed. The transformation began with a pulse that seemed to bend reality itself. The anomaly's chaotic quantum fluctuations suddenly synchronized with the human's resonator array, creating patterns of light and energy that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Every measuring device in the laboratory either overloaded or began displaying readings that should have been mathematically impossible. Maya Chen's fingers danced across her quantum controller with inhuman precision, adjusting the harmonic frequencies in real time as the anomaly responded to their intervention. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she conducted what might have been the most complex orchestra in human history, an orchestra playing the music of reality itself. The fractal patterns are stabilizing, Sarah Nelson called out, her voice barely audible over the quantum harmonics that filled the air. It's beautiful. Indeed, the holographic displays showed the anomaly transforming into something entirely new. What had been a chaotic distortion in space-time was reshaping itself into an intricate geometric structure that seemed to fold through dimensions beyond normal space. Alex Rodriguez laughed in disbelief as he monitored the resonator array. It's not just stabilizing, it's organizing itself. Look at these energy patterns. It's like watching a butterfly emerge from its chrysalis. Vaxian's sensory nodes were overwhelmed by the readings she was receiving. The anomaly was defying every known law of physics, yet doing so in a way that seemed perfectly natural, even inevitable. Around her, the assembled alien scientists watched in stunned silence as their understanding of the universe was systematically rewritten. The quantum cascade, Counselor Dizx 427 began, their crystalline form vibrating with confusion. It should have been catastrophic. Instead, it's exactly what needed to happen. Maya finished, never taking her eyes off her controls. The anomaly wasn't a mistake in the universe's programming. It was an update trying to install itself. The transformation continued for several more minutes, the quantum harmonics gradually shifting from chaotic discord to something that sounded almost like music. Finally, with a pulse that rippled through every deck of the station, the process completed. Where the dangerous quantum anomaly had been, there now floated what appeared to be a perfectly stable geometric structure that existed in at least 6 dimensions at once. It pulsed with a steady rhythm that matched the baseline frequency of normal spacetime, yet somehow enhanced it. Sarah checked her readings, then checked them again. All quantum fluctuations have returned to normal parameters. Well, normal plus something else. Something new. The structure appears to be generating its own localized quantum field, Alex reported, studying his instruments with fascination. But instead of disrupting nearby spacetime, it's stabilizing it, making it more resilient. Maya finally stepped away from her controller, exhaustion evident on her face, but her eyes bright with triumph. We didn't just fix the anomaly, she said. We helped it become what it was trying to be all along. Vexine moved forward to examine the readings herself. This is unprecedented, she declared. The structure appears to be a self-sustaining quantum stabilization matrix. It's actually strengthening the fabric of space-time in its vicinity. Like scar tissue, Sarah mused. When human tissue heals, it often becomes stronger at the point of injury. Maybe the universe works the same way. Counselor X427 approached the humans, their crystalline form now displaying patterns that indicated deep thought. You took an approach that violated every established principle of quantum physics, they said. You ignored safety protocols, disregarded standard procedures, and implemented a solution that, by all known science, should have been catastrophic. They paused, their next words clearly difficult to formulate. And in doing so, you have advanced our understanding of the universe by centuries. The laboratory erupted in the equivalent of applause from a dozen different species. The humans accepted the acclaim with tired smiles, but Vexine noticed they were already busy taking new readings, studying the implications of what they'd helped create. This changes everything, Alex said, examining the data streaming from his modified sensors. The quantum stabilization effect could revolutionize space travel, energy production, computing, and our understanding of life itself. Maya added, if quantum phenomena can evolve and adapt like this, what else might be out there? What other forms of existence might we discover if we just learn to look differently? Sarah looked up from her calculations. The real question is, how many other anomalies out there are actually trying to tell us something? How much have we missed because we were too busy trying to make the universe fit our expectations? Vexine felt her worldview shifting one final time. She looked at these three humans, these brilliant, reckless, impossible beings from a death world, and understood something fundamental about why they had survived their harsh planet. You succeeded, she said carefully, not in spite of being human, but because of it. Your planet's challenges forced you to develop a perspective that the rest of us never needed. Earth taught us that survival often means breaking the rules, Maya agreed, including the rules of physics. And that sometimes, Alex added with a grin, the best way to solve a problem is to help it solve itself. The newly evolved quantum structure pulsed again, its harmonics now a permanent part of the universal symphony. Around the laboratory, scientists from 100 worlds began comparing notes, their previous skepticism forgotten in the excitement of discovery. In that moment, Vexine realized that the galaxy would never be quite the same. Humanity had proved itself not just capable of participating in galactic science, but essential to its advancement. Their unique perspective, shaped by their harsh world and indomitable spirit, would help unlock mysteries that more conventional approaches might never have solved. The Deathworlders, it seemed, had much to teach the galaxy about life itself. Sarah stretched and yawned. Well, she said, that was fun. Who's up for coffee? I have a feeling we're going to be writing one hell of a research paper. The universe, now slightly stronger where it had once been broken, pulsed in harmony with their laughter.